In this video, I'm going to teach you how to feint and also how to throw some feint counter combinations to create openings and land cleaner shots. I know how to do this because I've done it. Before I teach you how to feint and what punch to throw after a feint, you need to know how to make a feint believable. You do this by landing a shot before you start using that feint. For example, I want to land a nice, clean, solid jab to the body so they actually want to defend it. If I didn't land it clean and it didn't do any damage, then there would be no need for them to defend it, and therefore I can't draw a reaction out of them when I do feint. So after I've landed that shot, then that's when I want to feint that jab to the body. You need to really mean the feint. I've noticed that thinking about not throwing a punch, i.e. feinting a punch, actually leads you to becoming less convincing of it to your opponent. If you actually think to yourself and try and convince yourself that you're going to throw a punch and then stopping after you've thrown only 20% of it, then it will actually be believable and you'll actually draw a reaction out of your opponent. A good feint is fast and twitchy. If you make a noise like ass or you stamp your foot on the floor when you throw the actual punch, then you need to make sure you do this when you feint to make it more realistic and believable. There are 5 different types of feint. You've got hand feints, foot feints, eye feints, head movement feints, or level change feints. I'm going to go through each one individually and spin a quick dit. I'll give you an example of some hand feints. So we could feint the jab to the body by convincing ourselves that we're going to throw a jab to the body after we've already landed one, as we said earlier. And then judging by my opponent's reaction to that jab, that feint to the body. So feint to the body, he might drop his right hand like this. So if I know that's what his reaction is to my jab to the body, I can feint to the body and come up with a left hook to the head to the area that's open. If he's blocking with, say, his lead hand, with my jab to the body, lead hand, then I can use that reaction to my advantage. I can feint there and throw across the head. Like that, or with the rear hand. So there's a couple ways you can use the jab to body. Here's a couple techniques of hand feints. One that I like to use is where you just like draw a C like this. Just drop your hand like that. You can sort of combine it with a little bit of a foot feint where you like bend your knee a little bit. And that sort of signifies to your opponent you're either going a left hook to the head as you're bringing your hand out here, or you're just going somewhere to the body. With foot feints, we could either feint to the left and go to the right, or we could feint to the right and go to the left. We could also intimidate our opponent by stomping on the ground and making them think that you're going to start attacking them, pressuring forward. This is great because the more we do this and the more we get a reaction out of them going backwards, we can move them into the ring where we want. So if we wanted to get them into the corner onto the ropes, we just keep using that foot feint and they'll just keep moving back like this till they hit the ropes. Then we can use it again, see how they react on the ropes, and then come in with a second phase. Depending on how they react, they could also tighten up like this, and this gives us an opportunity to exploit any openings that already exist or use more hand feints, eye feints to manipulate their guard and land more shots. Here is a great example of how you can use foot feints to land a shot. So, for example, I could be bouncing on the edge of Jordan's range, and I could use a foot feint which makes him think that I'm going to attack, and he might think, I'm going to counter as he's coming forward. If I foot feint, he might think I'm coming in with like a double jab or something and try to throw a right uppercut. Right? However, because it was just a feint and I've made him think that I'm coming forward and I'm actually not, as I do that and he throws that right uppercut, I'm actually out of range of that right uppercut and I can counter him with several shots, probably a left hook, seeing as he's moving his right hand out of the way. So there's an example of how you can use foot feints to counter the counter.
Right, let's do it in fast mode.
All right. Boom.
Right.
There we go. Here's another example of using foot feints. So I said earlier that when you use foot feints, it might be quite likely that they shell or try block because you know you're coming in for an attack. This is a perfect opportunity to blind and start picking off openings, coming in and out. This is especially effective once you've already got them on the ropes. So I've got Jordan on the ropes and I'm using my foot feints and he's shelling up like this, he knows he can't go back any further. So I'm using foot feints coming forward, and then I can just pick him off using that change of distance and foot feints to make him think or overthink what I'm going to do. The next one is eye feints. Eye feints are looking at a certain area and then throwing to a different area of your opponent. For example, you could look at their head and throw to the body, but you've got to maintain eye contact with the head. Maintain eye contact with Jordan at the head and throw to the body like this, or jab to the body. Or I could look at the body, throw as if I'm going to throw to the body, and then just come to the head. You won't be expecting it. Right now, we need to make these eye feints somewhat convincing. Right, I'm not saying like mega convincing, like, you know, I'm just gonna and then come to the head. Right, we just need to use direct eye contact. It's sort of like that thing we're talking about. It's like the invisible force you get through your eyes. Right, just maintain like stronger eye contact with that area. The next one is head movement feints. Now, staying still is the worst thing you can do in a fight unless you're trying to draw a reaction out of just being still, because sometimes that does work. But if you just keep moving, whether that's hand feints, foot feints, eye feints, or head feints or head movement feints, then you can gauge reactions out of people. Now, even moving your head will get some sort of reaction out of your opponent. This could either be how they move their hands in terms of their guard, or the punches they throw. For example, I might shift this way and this might draw a right hook out of them because they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to meet him that way. And then you can anticipate that right hook and counter that right hook. So just moving your head like this is also a great way to get reactions out of your opponent and make them do things for you to exploit. Last but definitely not least is level changing feints. Right now, changing the level usually means that you bend your knees or you drop your hands or drop the height of your eye line goes up and down. Now that's all you really need to do to feint going to the head or to the body, is just drop like this, just a bend in your knees, a change of level. Now, if you think about throwing body shots, especially like straight shots to the body, that's the first thing you do when you go to throw them, is you bend your knees, right? You bend your knees as you throw that punch out, all in one motion, or across. And that's the exact motion that we want to replicate 20% of to get a reaction out of our opponent. Now we can just go like this. Does it need such a specific name?
Yeah.
Go on. I'll sit down for it then. What are we calling it?
What are we going to call it?
JT's thinking. Oh, he's got it. You can tell he's got it from his reaction, you see. That's a cheeky grin.
The drunken jouster.
The drunken jouster, you know.
You know that too? The drunken jouster.
You can combine all these different types of feint to make yourself a really hard opponent to fight against. Just to recap, you need to make sure that your feint is convincing enough to get a reaction out of your opponent so you can exploit the opening that's created from their reaction. So that's the main goal of the feint, is to get a reaction out of them. I've done a more in-depth video in my free school community, which you can get for free in one of the free courses. There's free fundamentals boxing course, a free strategy course, and a free tactics course. It'll be linked in the top line of the description. There's also a community of 1,300 people in there, so make sure you join.
Did you say it was free?
Yeah.
Did you didn't say it was free?